Hola,
Hola.
Bienvenidos a LightSpeed Spanish.
Bienvenidos.
Y a los diarios de Gordon. We're going to do something special this week. We are going to interview my son, Sebastián.
Yeah.
How are you doing, Sebastián? Okay?
Oh yeah, I'm doing fine right now.
Good. And we're going to talk about being bilingual, but not like what we are bilingual, growing up bilingual. Pues hablamos de todo en la segunda parte. So, Sebastián, how old are you now?
I'm 12, almost 13 years old.
Almost 13. And you've grown up as a bilingual child, Spanish and English, yeah?
Yeah, I grew up bilingual.
Mm-hmm. And you're still growing up bilingual, yeah?
I will continue growing up bilingual.
It's a process that will never end. So, for the first, I think, 4 years of your life, you lived in the UK.
Yeah.
Yeah? And then for the remainder, you've lived here in Spain.
Yeah.
Okay. What's it like for you having, because your mum only talks to you in Spanish.
Yeah.
I only talk to you in English, typically.
Typically.
Yeah, unless we're doing an interview where I'll talk to you in Spanish.
Yeah.
What's it like when, for example, we're in a conversation, your mum's there, I'm there, and you are bouncing between two languages. Your mum will say something to you in Spanish, you'll reply, I'll say something, and you reply in English. What has to happen in your mind for that to happen?
I don't know. I am just used to speaking to you in English and to Mum in Spanish. So it's just like, just speaking the same, just a different language.
Uh-huh.
But typically, well, what I do sometimes is that I speak to Mum in English when I'm speaking to you. So like if we're having a group conversation and like we're speaking and our main language is English, then I'll speak to Mum in English. But if our main language is Spanish, I'll speak to Mum in Spanish. I'll speak to you in Spanish as well.
Okay. Do you have to do anything special in your mind to be able to flip from one language to another?
No, not tanto. Not really.
No. Okay. Okay. And how do you see because you're 12 now, I mean, your English is excellent. Are there still things in English that you don't understand?
Well, if anything, it's just the words. Like, I need to remember them or whatever. It's just the worst thing is forgetting words, whatever, because it happens often.
Yeah. Does it ever happen to you that, because it certainly does to me, that sometimes you can remember the word in Spanish but you can't remember it in English, or you remember it in English and you can't remember it in Spanish?
I usually forget words in Spanish, so I have to say it in English. But sometimes I forget the words in English, so I have to say it in Spanish. So a bit of both.
Yeah. And how do you see your English and your Spanish? Do you have a stronger language at the moment?
Well, hands down, English is the best language that the language I'm best at. I don't really know why. I had Spanish classes and I like learn how to spell, learn how to read, learn how to write in Spanish, but not really in English. I never had any English classes. Yet I know how to speak more properly. I know how to hold a strong conversation. But with Spanish, I'm just the worst thing that could happen is forgetting an easy word.
Yeah.
Which just happened a lot.
Yeah. So if you were, for example, let's say that your English is a 10, what number, from 0 to 10, what number would your Spanish be at the moment? Where do you think it is?
10, and Spanish, I imagine, would be like a 7.
7.
7.
Yeah. I mean, I'm confident that there'll come a point where they'll level out anyway as you get older, because what I noticed was that, for example, what I've noticed with bilingual children, I've only had 2, all right? So I'm not an expert on bilingual children, but they are slow at the beginning. It appears that they're slow because they've got less vocab and maybe less ability than children of their age who were just monolingual. But obviously when you put together the two lots of vocab, they've actually got much more vocab than somebody of their age, but it's spread across two languages. How much time do you think you spend listening to Spanish compared to listening to English?
Oh, Spanish. I listen to English 95% of the time. I listen to Spanish 5%.
Right.
The only time I listen in Spanish is when I'm speaking to Mummy or to Damien.
Okay. Between you and Damien, what's your preferred language now?
Well, with Mummy I'm staying with English, Spanish I mean. But with Damien, I usually speak English more because he knows English better than Spanish. I know English better than Spanish. If you combine these two, it's good.
Interesting. All of Sebastian's classes, as he mentioned, all of the classes that he has are in Spanish, except for one, which is chemistry, yeah?
Physics
and
chemistry, yeah.
Yeah. And that's just something recent, isn't it? That you've got a recent teacher that's from the UK.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything else is in Spanish, yeah?
Yeah.
So you know when you're having your classes and they're talking to you in Spanish, do you ever struggle to understand what they're saying?
No, if they say, not usually. If they say a word that I don't recognise, but I do know the context of what they're saying, then I do understand.
Mm-hmm.
They could be talking about, I don't know, like bins or whatever, and they say like the name of a lid of the bin, and I don't know what it is, but I understand it because I know the context.
In the context, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah. So when you're with Jajos, the Jajos are the grandparents. Obviously, although they're learning English, they never talk to you in English, do they?
Really, they only speak to me in English when they want to flex on what they learned or something.
Show off, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then let's talk about accent, because in English, because you really, your English isn't tied to any region, it's not tied to anything, only what you've learned. I would say that your accent is what's called a neutral accent.
Yeah.
Like somebody could hear you speaking English and you say, where's he from? They would say, I don't know. Yeah, because you haven't got any accent, so to speak. How's your accent in Spanish? Do you think it's, is it similar when you speak to how Mummy speaks and how the Yayos speak?
Well, the accents has influenced me. I still can't just quite grasp the exact accents, but they influence the accents on me. And once I learned, like, the basic part about having a Spanish accent is speaking as if you were cocky, speaking as if you were cool. If you want to have a Spanish accent, speak Spanish as if you were really cocky or whatever.
Okay, there's a tip then. If you want to improve your Spanish accent, start speaking as though you're cocky. Yeah. Well, lots of people have mentioned, for example, if I flip and I'm talking in English and then I talk in Spanish, they say, oh, I hear it, there's a different tone, there's a different energy to speaking in Spanish.
Yeah, in Spanish, not only do I have to speak as if I was cocky in Spanish, but I also act as if I were cocky.
Okay.
Because, say I was in a one-on-one football match, and in Spanish I would usually say, voy a ganar, te voy a reventar, whatever. But in English I'll say, well, let's see who wins. Or, like, I wish you luck, or whatever.
Uh-huh.
So it's completely...
But in Spanish, I'm going to beat you, I'm going to wipe you out, yeah?
With bilingual people, each language has their own personality. So my personality changes by language. Sure.
And so do you feel like you're more polite in English?
Way more.
Yeah.
Way more.
Okay. But less so in Spanish then? Why is that? Is that because most people speak like that in Spanish?
All the people I've been around with and all the people I've listened to Spanish family members, kids around or whatever, they speak as if they're the best. They speak
Okay.
as if they had the power of 3,000 men or something.
Okay. A lot of bravado, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Cool. What do you think? Do you have any ideas of what you might do with this ability? Because being bilingual, and I'm talking about being bilingual as in totally natural, not like for us who've learned another language, so we're bilingual, but we didn't grow up with it. Do you think you'll do anything with it?
Well, if I live in Spain, then I won't typically use English, only with specific circumstances. But if I live in England, then I won't really need to use Spanish in certain circumstances.
Sure.
So, I mean, depends, but it is really useful sometimes if, like you with a Spanish friend or an English friend in Spain or in England or United States or whatever, you can, like for example, you and your friend are English and you guys live in Spain, and you can just go up to your friend and say, hey, that guy, he's speaking mad doo-doo about you. He's talking really bad about you. And you don't have to lower your voice, you don't have to whisper. You can just say it out loud, because...
They can't understand.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you ever do that? Do you ever talk about a situation in another language so that people don't understand?
Oh yeah. More times than I would like to admit.
Okay. Yeah. What do you think about swearing? What do you notice about the way that Spanish people use swear words and English people use swear words?
Well, from what I lived through, Spanish people usually swear more. They swear so much that swearing is just a word that people say. It's just a word. There's no nothing to it. There's nothing to it. But in English, I don't think English people tend to swear as much. So the swearing feeling is still there.
Sure. It's more impactful when British people swear. When Spanish people swear, it's like, God bless you. It's like, that's how we talk, yeah. Okay. Really interesting. So why don't we talk a little bit in Spanish?
Vale.
And, a ver, cuéntame un poco de tu mañana. ¿Qué has hecho hoy, por ejemplo?
Pues hoy lo primero que hice es abrir mis ojos.
No tienes que ser tan literal. Sí, bueno. Abriste los ojos.
Y me quedo en la cama como semi-despierto, semi-dormido por 5 minutos para prepararme, para despertarme. Y ya me despierto y me voy al baño, como tú.
Vale. No, conmigo no, pero como yo, ¿no? Como todo el mundo, supongo, ¿no? Por la mañana a primera hora, sí. Ajá.
Después, típicamente me gusta ir en la tele, en el móvil, lo que sea, para poner un poco de música, porque me gusta empezar mi mañana con música.
¿Siempre escuchas música por la mañana?
Sí, por meses ya estaba haciendo eso.
¿Y por qué te gusta la música por la mañana? ¿Qué te hace?
Pues si escuchas música de tipos diferentes, sientes diferente, como si escuchas música agresiva, sientes agresivo, sientes que tienes poder, pero si escuchas música triste, sientes que estás triste. Entonces me gusta escuchar música, no sé, para darme energía, para darme poder, solo para que me despierte mejor, para que me prepare.
Bien. ¿Y tú has tenido una clase hoy?
Sí.
¿De qué?
De historia.
De historia, ¿y qué tal?
Bien.
¿Te gusta la historia?
Sí, me gustaba mucho antes, pero pero ya no tanto. Me gusta, pero ya no tanto.
Vale. ¿Cuál es tu asignatura favorita entonces?
Eso es una pregunta difícil. Es o física o música.
Música, sí. Y claro que tú tocas 3 instrumentos, ¿verdad?
Sí, toco 3.
Decías 4 antes porque tocabas también el
Sí, pero
juice harp, ¿no?
no creo que cuenta. 3 y medio mejor sería. Toco saber tocar 3 instrumentos y medio.
Ujú. Entonces, tocas el piano,
¿Sí?
¿qué más?
Ya te has olvidado.
No, pero que hables tú.
Vale. Pues toco el piano, la flauta y el violín.
El violín.
Y el juice, pero nadie habla de ese instrumento.
No.
No importa.
¿Y qué instrumento se te da mejor? ¿El piano, la flauta, el violín?
Vale, el violín absolutamente no.
No.
Pero es una pregunta difícil porque con el piano yo sé cómo tocar bien con las 2 manos y eso, pero con la flauta también tiene sus cosas, pero no estoy seguro. Yo típicamente diría flauta porque es mi favorito y ya lo tocaba por como 5 o 6 años ya.
Sí. Empezaste con 6 años, ¿no?
Con 6 tuve clases de música con 6 y flauta empecé con 7 años.
Vale, sí. Ajá. Muy bien, muy bien. Y tú has tocado la flauta en una canción mía. Una
Sí,
vez, ¿verdad? Sí.
una vez.
Sí. A ver si ponemos una parte de la canción con Sebastián, con la flauta. Somebody loves you, and it's alright. Hold on, reach out. Y bueno, ¿y tus hobbies, tus pasatiempos? ¿Qué te gusta hacer?
Pues lo que yo hago todos los días hasta hoy es escuchar música, porque esto es más de un hobby que una rutina.
Rutina.
Ya olvidé una palabra.
Ajá.
Te dije, primera palabra que olvidé.
Rutina.
Rutina.
Ujú.
Es más como un hobby que una rutina.
Sí, sí, una obsesión, ¿no?
Sí.
Qué bien, qué bien. Excellent. So, there you are. That's Sebastián for you. Yeah. To finish, for the people who are learning Spanish, okay, and maybe who are having a hard time or looking for motivation, what would be any advice that you would give them to about learning Spanish or learning any language, I suppose?
From my experience with learning other languages, I have two advices for you. The first one, which is not really too useful, is quit while you still can.
That's not very useful, no.
And second, just don't spend too much time. Don't spend too much time doing English exercises or anything. Just do like 20 minutes a day or something, and then you will definitely forget some of it. But like when you have another class or another session with another language, you'll start to remember what you forgot. And if you continue like this, you'll start to slowly remember more words and learn more rules, and yeah.
Okay. Very good.
But sadly, I only stuck to the first thing that I said, with
Getting out quitting while you...
French and Esperanto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Persistence is the key. And little chunks, as Sebastian says, little chunks at a time rather than 3 hours of studying. It doesn't work very well.
Yeah.
20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, and you learn. Bueno, entonces, Sebastián, muchas gracias por la entrevista.
De nada.
Y a ver, nos vemos la próxima vez. Hasta luego.
Hasta luego.